Morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing okay. So today we're going to be looking at the bank reconciliation process. This is part of the Principles of Bookkeeping's unit, which is the second unit at level 2. So I appreciate not everyone might be at this stage yet, but we didn't want you to miss out on the opportunity of this live session. So do feel free to make any notes as you go. We will be recording this session, so we'll be able to look back on this when you do get to that point if you're not quite there yet. So hopefully this will be a useful resource for you at that time. Okay, because we are recording this session and we do want to send this to you at a later point, we're going to run through a couple of activities and we'll pick up any questions at the end. So if I could just ask that we all mute ourselves as we'll go through these, and then we'll cover all of the questions once we've reached the end of the session. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. We'll have a look at these activities and make a start. Perfect. So just before we get into this, we're just going to have a look at, first of all, what do we mean when we say a bank reconciliation? Okay, there's two documents which we are going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at a bank statement sent to us from the bank, and we're going to be looking at an extract of a cash book so we can see an internal record of what the business sees within its own bank account. Okay, the idea is that we compare the two documents together and hopefully everything should match up. So what we have as a business recorded within our cash book reflects what is actually happening within our bank account as well. Okay, when we do look at these tasks, it's never going to be a perfect matchup. Okay, there will be timing differences which we need to identify, and that will be quite a big part of this process. Okay, the two timing differences that we will be looking at are our outstanding lodgements and unpresented checks. Outstanding lodgements are any checks that have been received, which we have entered into the cash book, but are not quite showing on the bank statement yet. Any unpresented checks will be checks that have been sent by us, but aren't showing in the bank statement either. Okay, so it's a record which is within our cash book, but just hasn't quite come through on the bank statement yet. Okay, when we're comparing the two, we have to be able to recognize what they are to ensure that both balances match up on the documents. Okay, so we're going to look at the first activity. We've got two activities today. They're both fairly similar, but the second one is going to highlight some other differences which you need to be aware of. Okay, so we'll do a run through of the first one and then look at those key differences within the second activity. So a typical question you might have would be the following. You've received the below bank statement for the month of March, and we need to reconcile the bank statement against the cash book and complete the bank reconciliation statement. Okay, so we're going to tackle this in a 3-step process, which will enable us to complete this task efficiently. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight all the transactions which appear in both the bank statement and the cash book. This will leave us with the transactions which we know that we need to focus on. Okay. One thing we do need to look out for at this point as well as looking along the payments and receipts column within the bank statement, we also have to include the balance brought down within this reconciliation process as well. Okay. Sometimes the balance will match, sometimes it won't. In this case, our balances match, so we can reconcile those together. Okay, so we can highlight those because our opening balance in our bank statement matches our opening balance within our cash book. Okay, our second activity will look at the difference in that scenario, so we will look at that next. Okay. So first of all, we're going to work our way down the payments column within the bank statement and highlight any of those that appear within our cash book. Okay, we have a payment of £775, which we can see is also in our cash book. Okay, and that relates to a rent payment. Okay, so we can highlight those together. Next, we have a cheque for £495, which appears in our cash book as a purchase. So we can highlight that as well. We've got a cheque for £87. This relates to a stationery payment. Next, we've got a debit card payment for £610. This appears as a supplier payment to S. Howard. We've got a direct debit for insurance, that's £78. That matches the insurance payment in our cash book. We've also got another cheque here for £415. This relates to more purchases. And we have a cheque for £211.50, which relates to a telephone payment. Okay. We do also have bank charges there of £7, but you'll notice that doesn't appear within our cash book. Okay, we are going to cover that in the second step of the process. So for now, we're just going to highlight those which do appear in both. Next, we're going to go down the receipts column of the bank statement. So we've got a receipt for £848.30. That's a debit card receipt. Okay, we can see that relates to sales. We've got a cheque for £487, which again relates to sales. And we've got another cheque for £645, which again is sales. Finally, we have a deposit of £245.30, which relates to a cash deposit made into the bank. Okay, so that would have been the business making a transfer from the cash account to the bank account. Okay, so everything has now been highlighted, which appears in both. Okay, our step 2 is now to enter any unhighlighted transactions which appear in the bank statement into the cash book. Okay, so we need to enter those. In this case, it's only the bank charges for £7. Okay, so we are going to enter that on the credit side of the cash book because it's bank charges, it's a payment. Okay, so that will be on the 30th. The account that will go to will be bank charges account, and that will be for £7. Okay. So what we can do now is reconcile that transaction as well, because it's now showing in both of our documents. Okay. Typical items which will appear in the bank statement and not in the cash book will be any bank charges. It might be any bank interest received. It could be any customer receipts. So a customer that's made a payment to us and they haven't made us aware of it. Or potentially any standing order or direct debit payments. Okay, but if they appear in our bank statement, we need to add them to our cash book. Okay. Now, the next thing that we need to do, okay, is balance off our cash book, because that's the information we're going to need in order to complete our final step 3 in this case. Okay, so everything is entered in the cash book now, so we need to balance off the cash book. The total on the debit side is £4,818.50. Okay. The total on the credit side is £4,131.10. What we need to do is add in a balance carried down at the end of the month for the difference between the two columns. Okay, which should be £687.40. Okay, that means both columns will then total £4,818.50. Okay, so our cash book has now been updated. Step 3 is now looking at those items which are unhighlighted in the cash book, and we need to add those to the bank reconciliation statement. Okay, and the aim is that the closing balance on our bank statement, which is £1,700 here, should match the balance carried down figure that we've entered within the cash book. Okay, what we do also need to do is we've entered the balance carried down, so we can enter the balance brought down at the start of the next period. So April the 1st, balance brought down, there'll be the £687.40. Okay, so that will just be there for when we start the next month. Okay, so hopefully we can get these to match. This is where we're looking at our timing differences. Okay, we can see the 3 transactions in the cash book which are unhighlighted. We've got the receipt on the 28th for D Holler of £440, and we've got 2 payments on the credit side for £1,048.60 and £404. Okay, the debit entries within our cash book are the outstanding lodgements. The credit entries in the cash book are our unpresented checks. Okay, we're going to enter those into our, let me just undo that, bank reconciliation statement. Okay, so what we need to be aware of when we're looking at our bank reconciliation statement is you can be given this in 2 different ways, and it depends on the starting point in which you're given. First of all, we're going to look at the balance as per the bank statement and work our way to the balance as per the cash book. Okay, so our balance in our bank statement is the £1,700 circled there. So we can enter that here. Okay, our outstanding lodgements are our debit entries in the cash book. Okay, so this is D Holler for £440. So we'll add that into here. Okay, we've only got the 1 entry on the debit side, so we can add the subtotal here of £440. Okay, next we need to add in our unpresented checks, and these are the 2 transactions on the credit side of the cash book. This is for T Richardson and D, of the pen, D Page. Okay, first one was for £1,048.60. and the second one was for £404. Okay, this gives us a subtotal of £1,452.60. Okay. Now, it's important to note at this point, when we're working from the balance as per the bank statement to go to the cash book, that we are adding our outstanding lodgements and deducting our unpresented checks. Okay. Effectively, what we are doing is including these transactions in the cash book and including them within the bank statement. Okay. Hopefully, once everything appears in the bank statement, the balance should match up correctly. It's a mathematical check for us to use just to make sure everything's accurate. Okay, knowing that the outstanding lodgements in the cash books and the cash book is a receipt, that will increase the balance on the bank statement. Any payments to our unpresented checks will reduce the balance in the bank statement. Okay, that's why we add our outstanding lodgements and we deduct our unpresented checks. Okay, so if we follow this right column now, 1,700 plus 440 minus £1,452.60 gives us £687.40p. Okay, which correctly matches our balance within the cash book. Okay, so we know that we've done everything correctly there because our balances match. Okay. Now, you can also be asked to work from the balance as per the cash book and work to the balance as per the bank statement. So effectively what we're doing is working from the bottom up, and we're just doing this in a reverse order. Okay, so we'll first enter our balance as per cash book, which we know is £687.40. We need to less any outstanding lodgements this time. Okay, and this is because we're working in reverse here. Okay, so this is D-Holler, £440, which gives us a subtotal here, 440, and add any unpresented checks. So we've got T. Richardson, and we've got D. Page. Okay, it's for £1,048.60 and £404. Okay, it gives us a subtotal £1,452.60. Okay, if we follow the formula again, so £687.40 minus 440, add £1,452.60, we should get £1,700, which matches our balance as per the bank statement. Okay. Effectively, when we're doing it the second way, okay, we're working from the cash book to the bank statement. So what we're doing is these unhighlighted items, whereas we added them to the bank statement in the first method, what we're doing is taking them out of the cash book in the second method. Okay, so because our outstanding lodgement of £440 has already been added to the cash book, to get to the bank statement balance, we're going to deduct that from the cash book balance. Okay, because our unpresented checks, so our payments, have already been entered into the cash book, okay, we're going to add those back in to reach our bank statement balance. Okay, So key points, just kind of reviewing that activity. Okay. First step, look to highlight all the transactions which appear in both. Okay. Your second step will then be adding any unhighlighted transactions in the bank statement to the cash book. Okay. That will then allow you to balance off the cash book by totaling the columns and adding in the balance carried down. And then the third step is any unpresented checks or outstanding lodgements within the cash book are added to the bank reconciliation statement. Okay. The key thing in this part is look out for your starting point. Okay, because that will affect whether you add or deduct your unpresented checks or outstanding lodgements. Okay, so look out for the top starting point so you know how to calculate those. Okay. We're going to have a look at another activity, okay, following the same process, given the same information, but there are a couple of differences which we do have to note, okay, and these are typical things that can come up in an exam question, so it's just a couple of varieties that we need to be aware of, okay, but we will still follow the same process. Okay, so step one is highlight those transactions which appear in both the bank statement and the cash book. Okay, I'm just going to start from the payments column this time. Okay, we'll go onto the receipts next, and then we'll look at the balance, because that's one of the differences that we need to look out for. So first of all, we've got a payment for £155. Okay, which appears in the credit side of our cash book. We've got another payment for £37.50, which is also in our cash book, so we can highlight those. We've got a debit card payment for £230. Okay, that relates to a printer. We've got a direct debit insurance payment for £44. That appears in our cash book. And we've got a cheque for £217.20, which relates to purchases. Okay. We've got a direct debit for water appearing in the payment section, which isn't in our cash book. Okay. I'm going to leave that for now because we'll enter that when we get on to step two. Okay. In our receipts column, we've got a cheque for £357.50, which isn't shown in our cash book, but there is a reason for that, which we'll have a look at in a second. We've got another receipt for £612.40. Okay, that relates to sales. We've got a cheque for £769.80. Another cheque for £563.70. And we've got another cash deposit here, £54.50, which we can highlight there. Okay. So in this example, we've got a couple more unhighlighted transactions. Now, one of the important things that we need to look out for is our opening balances. So I'm just going to go back to the first activity, and you can see that when we were looking at the two statements here, we noticed that the balances both matched. So we could highlight those and tick them off. Okay. In this case, we've got a balance of £625.80 within the bank statement, but our balance in the cash book is £268.30. The reason for this will be a timing difference, okay? So this is one of the things that you need to look out for. There should be, within the bank statement, a transaction which will match the difference between these two opening balances. Okay. The reason for this is the transaction would have been entered in the previous month's cash book, but it's only just appeared in this month's bank statement. So there's just a slight crossover there. Okay. Now, if we look at the difference, £625.80 minus £268.30 should give you a difference of £357.50. Okay, which we can see we have a check for in the bank statement. So what we do in this case is we reconcile the three transactions together, because we're recognizing that this receipt for £357.50 is just a timing difference, which has just appeared on the bank statement this month, but would have been included in the cash book in the previous month. Okay. One of the key things you need to look out for, because it is likely to appear in a scenario that you are working with. Just while we're looking at the balances, okay, we'll notice that in the bank statement this time, we're actually starting with a negative balance. Okay, so our bank is actually overdrawn. Okay. That's also the case in our cash book, because our balance brought down is on the credit side. Okay, so we're dealing with a balance here where we're working with overdrawn bank account as opposed to one with positive funds. Okay, just something to look out for. Okay, because we need to be aware of how those balances match up. Okay, now we can move on to the step 2, which is adding any of those transactions which are in the bank statement into our cash book. Okay, so we've got 2 transactions which we need to enter here. We've got the direct debit for water for £1,211.50. So we're going to enter that into here. Okay. That'll be on the credit side because it relates to a payment. And then we've also got bank interest received. Okay, we know it's received because it's within the receipts column. So that will go on the debit side of our cash book. Okay, so we can add in bank interest there for £5. Okay, we can now highlight those transactions, and everything is now matching with the bank statement. Everything in the bank statement is now highlighted. Okay, we're going to quickly balance off the cash book while we're here. So the total on the debit side is £2,504.30. The total on the credit side is £2,303.85. So because that's the lesser side, the balance carried down is going to fall on the credit side. And we'll add in the difference there, which is £200.45. Okay, that will ensure that both of our columns now match. And we can add on June the 1st, our balance brought down £200.45. Okay. What we notice here is that our overdrawn cash book has now become a bank has now got positive funds within there, okay, because the balance brought down is now sat on the debit side, okay. So that's something that we just need to note at this point, okay, because we've gone from being overdrawn on the 1st of May to being positive funds on the 1st of June, okay. Notice on the bank statement, okay, because we're going to have to make these balances match, that we're still showing as negative at the end of the month in the bank statement, okay. And then on to step 3, we're going to look at the bank reconciliation statements, okay. So this is where we are adding in our outstanding lodgements and our unpresented checks. So we're going to do it the same way that we did last time. We're going to start with the balance as per the bank statement, which is £158.10. Note that this is a minus number, okay. So we're going to enter that in here. We've got our outstanding lodgements to add. So these are those unhighlighted items on the debit side of the cash book. Okay, we've got 2 here, A. Wilson and G. Holmes. I've already got this part populated with the names here. So we'll just add the amounts. So £350 and £148.90. That gives us a total of £498.90. We're then going to less our unpresented checks. Okay, so these are the credit items in the cash book which are unhighlighted. We've got 2 here, so P. Jones and C. Preston. So we're going to add those into our statement here. So £55.60 and £84.75, okay, which is going to give us a total of £140.35. Okay, so now we can follow the right-hand column and calculate these. So our balance as per bank statement, add our outstanding lodgements, less our unpresented checks, should give us a final balance as per cash book of £200.45, which, if we go back to our cash book, correctly matches our balance at the end of the month and the beginning of June. Okay, and just to work through that in reverse order as well, to do it from both points of view. Okay, we'll start with the balance as per the cash book, which is £200.45. We're going to less our outstanding lodgements. So we've got A. Wilson, G. Holmes. Okay, that's a subtotal of £498.90. And then we're going to add our unpresented checks. So P. Jones and C. Preston. That's £55.60 and £84.75. Okay, that gives us a total of £140.35. Again, we'll follow the same formula. So balance as per the cash book, less our outstanding lodgements, add our unpresented checks, should give us a balance as per bank statement of £158.10, which matches correctly, which is what is at the end of our bank statement. Okay, so just remember, when you're starting from your balance as per bank statement, you're going to add those outstanding lodgements, okay, because they're the money coming in to the bank, so that will increase the bank balance. And then you less your unpresented checks, because that will reduce the bank balance, and that should give you your balance as per cash book. When you're starting with the balance as per cash book, you're just doing that in a reverse order. So instead of adding those transactions into the bank statement, you're taking those unhighlighted transactions out of the cash book. Okay, it works in a reverse order, but either way, you should still get the same matching balances. Okay, just quickly reviewing this task and the key points to note then. So look out for the differences with your balances. Okay, if you do have a difference between these balances, okay, then there will be a transaction within the bank statement equal to the difference. Okay, so you'll reconcile 3 transactions instead of 2. You won't get more than the 3 transactions within an exam question. Okay, in a real life scenario that could happen, and there'll be a lot more investigation which goes into that. But for the sake of a question you might get in your exam, there will only be that 3rd transaction to deal with. Look out for any indicators that the bank account is overdrawn. Okay, so look out for where the opening balances start, in particular, whether it's on the debit or the credit side of the cash book. Okay, and that covers everything within this task. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that ran smoothly. Just going to come to any questions now. So if anyone would like to pop any questions in the Q&A section, we can have a look at those. I've got that on screen now, so I can see if anyone's entering anything in there. We will be sending this video out as well, so you will be able to look back on this. That means you'll be able to view the document as well. We'll follow that up as a separate attachment with the video, so you will have document workings as well. So you will have these resources to hand. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions come through yet, which hopefully means everything made sense. But, you know, if anything does come up, whether, you know, it's at a later point, if you're reviewing this and you're still unsure, or you just don't want to ask any questions now, that's absolutely fine. Just follow up on an email to the usual AAT2 email address, and I'm more than happy to go through any of those questions with you. Okay, so thanks for joining today. I hope that was useful. Like I say, any more questions, just let me know, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thanks very much.